Everyone who is joining me today is indeed in for a big treat because I, your host, the one and only infamous Kentucky Yankee without a doubt, has purchased a new project. Here's what I picked up. It's a 1980 Yamaha GT80, I think. And there is a box of parts. I'm going to get those out and show them to you. This is a two-stroke, single-cylinder enduro bike, which I plan to put on the road. These are all the parts that came with this bike. I thought I would show you folks. Look at that, a whole front end basically. Oil tank, a spare engine, just all kinds of pieces here. Look, headlight bucket, which is in good shape. Sprockets and horns and mufflers. And of course, before I even got it started and running, I went and bought new parts for it. Turn signals, you got to have them before it ever runs, and a front fender. This little machine has a lot of potential because look, new tires, got a brand new front tire, and the rear tire is new. Something I noticed when I purchased it, this wheel is all cattywampus, but now I'm looking at it just now, and that nut right there is loose. This could possibly be an easy fix. Allow me, if you're a newcomer, to just fill my subs in on what's been going on the other projects around here so you guys don't think that I've abandoned all my other projects, because I certainly haven't. I just get distracted. I'm like a little kid, you know, going to the Thanksgiving table, filling my plate up with all this stuff, and then not being able to, you know, fit it in my belly. And that's kind of the way I am with junk projects. First and most recently, the Ford Ranger Turbo project. I'm still working on it. It's still in the garage. I'm going to lower it down and get the frame cut on it. And this project has certainly not been abandoned. Many of you maybe thought the Z50 project was over with and long gone, but it's not. I painted the frame and the, brake pedal and swing arm, all that's painted. This needs to be yellow. You know, I'm working on it. It's just at a slow pace. There is an interesting little factor here in buying this motorcycle with all these extra parts. I'm thinking about maybe, and you purists will be insulted, but I'm thinking about maybe using the front forks, the triple tree, the handlebars, everything off of this Yamaha GT80 and use it on my Z50 over there. Yee, gads. If you're going to do an original restoration, every nut and bolt has to be perfect, in my opinion. And if it's not that way, then you've not restored it properly. I'm not willing to take that route, so I'll do what I want, make it look cool, and have fun riding it. Only time will tell if that comes to pass. We'll just have to see. Back to the bike we're working on today. The guy said it ran. I'm going to put a little petrol in it and just see what happens. It is a project bike. He knows that. I knew that when I purchased it. But he said it would pop off on starter fluid and it may run. And so I'm going to put a little gas in it. We'll see what happens. Why not? I gotta open up the garage. She's a runner. Let's try her again outside where I won't smoke the place out. Oh. She's running. Smoking terribly. It won't pick up. There it goes. Look at that. Woo! Now that's amazing. It's idling. Look at that. Put, 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 put. Nice. Alright, not bad for a first rip. I was able to go through all the gears, but it's a far away from being a dependable motorbiker. So now I've got the little motorbike here in the shop. It's up on the lift and I'm getting ready to tear into it, tear it apart. And you may be wondering, why'd you go for this little rip? What was the point of that if you're just going to tear into it and tear it apart and start working on it? The reason for that is it only lasted a short time. It was a very short little rip. But all the knowledge I gained in that short little trip. I know the clutch works smooth and good. I know the brakes work. It shifts through all the gears smoothly without a lot of clunking or any noises that I can tell. I know the front forks need to be rebuilt. So I gained a whole lot of knowledge on a little bitty short ride. With it up on the lift, just peeking around, first thing I noticed is the carburetor has some JB weld on the bowl. See it right there? Another thing I noticed straight off was that the petcock is leaking, but it appears to be leaking right there at the tank where it's screwed on. So I don't think it's the valve. The valve looks fairly new on there. A little good and bad news, it appears to have a brand new chain on it, but the rear sprocket appears to be completely and totally worn out. It did come with another sprocket, so we'll look into that. As I pointed out earlier, brand new shoes on this puppy, which I like. That's always nice, isn't it? Overall, she seems to be in fairly good shape considering it is a 40-year-old machine. It is a very rare occasion that you get a bike where the gas tank doesn't have to come off and be cleaned up, and this bike is no exception. There'll be a link in the description below showing how I clean these gas tanks out if you're interested in that. Next, I want to take this spark plug out so I can check the compression, get some kind of idea of what shape this engine's in. Whew, she's running rich. We have a compression reading of 0. So I don't think that's accurate. I think my gauge might be junk. I've got another gauge here we may try, but it probably doesn't have enough compression. Not as much as it should. And I'm probably going to freshen it up and put rings in it anyways. So there you have it. We have a compression reading of maybe 5. So that's not ideal. It's actually not even working. I don't think my gauges work. So screw all the technical gauges and all that crap. Let's just do it old school. Here's my finger, see? I'm going to stop up the hole and check the compression. And she has very, very little compression. So now we know. No surprise. I'm sure it's going to need a piston and rings at minimum, but I need to tear it apart to see what size we need because somebody could have already bored this engine out. In addition to that, the crankshaft seals are always bad on old 2-stroker engines like this, so they'll need to be replaced. Not necessary, but I like to have a little room when I work, so I took the seat off. Interesting, this is going to require a spanner wrench to get off. You could just tap it with a punch and a hammer right there, if need be. Our little exhaust seal. Our carburetor is not looking so good. It's broke off there on the top too. See where it screws into it? This oil tank is actually full of oil. I'm surprised. Very curious to know the condition of the air filter, if it even has one. And no surprise, it's horrible and looks to be possibly homemade. Terrible shape. Rubber boot still pliable. No cracks. Nice. There's the reed valves soaked in petrol. I believe our little machine here is getting entirely too much fuel. We'll pop this cylinder head off. And then the cylinder, the piston just peeking through the porthole here. Looks nice. Actually, no scoring. Just at first glance, that is. We are getting ready to learn a lot about this engine right now. And I'm going to turn it up at the camera. I'm not even looking at it. Ah, looks nice. Clean. Like I said, there's so much fuel going in there, it's cleaning the carbon off of the top of the head. And now for the cylinder, the piston is all the way at the bottom. Oh, she's stuck. Egads, man! Holy moly! Oh. Okay, this is bad. So I said the compression was so low that I couldn't believe it's running. Look at that. Look at that piston. A chunk out of the top of it is MIA. That is missing in action. Also, the top ring's not even in there. Look at that. There's no ring there. Where's the top ring? Where'd the ring go? Hey, hi. Where's the top ring? Amazing. Our piston has seen better days. She's in bad shape, all chunked apart. Most likely, all of these pieces that broke off of it blew out the exhaust. And because, I mean, it's impossible for them to get past here unless they were just shredded into powder. The inside of this cylinder looks really good. It's in really good shape, and it's a standard size. It has not been overbored. That's what I needed to know when I go to order parts. So I'll end up just honing it out, getting a new piston and rings. Whoopah! I removed the wrist pin clips without stuffing that rag in there. Ooh! And I didn't show it on camera because I didn't want anybody getting their little pantalones all bunched up. But there's a rag in there now to keep the dirt out. Let's move on to the crankshaft seals. Somebody put a nut on this side of the shifter to lock it in place. Typically, there's no nut here. It just threads through the, the shifter's got threads in it. Ooh, these are stripped out pretty bad. Let's see how this one does. Ooh, nice. I don't know if this cover even has to come off, but I'm taking it off. This cover didn't have to come off anyways. There's nothing behind here, no reason for it to come off. But I'd like to replace the screws anyway, so there she is. Time to remove the fly wheel. So my impact socket, the wall is too thick of the socket and you can't get it down in there. So I'll have to take a chance and use this one. A chance on breaking it, and it wasn't much of a chance. Came out easy. Now I might be so screwed because I do have the tool to take this out, but I don't know where it is. So let me hunt around and see if I can find it. I did find the tool, the puller. Did take me a little while, but I found it. And these are cheap. You need to buy one if you want to pull this flywheel off. Reverse threads. You're never supposed to use an impact with a puller, but I don't always follow every rule that folks give out. Somebody's been all up in this motorbike. Look, these screws here are both kind of stripped out, and that's probably from putting seals in, maybe, I would presume. A cool thing to discover was that piston all busted up and it's still running, but the rest of this stuff is pretty normal for old motorbikes, stripped screws, stuff like that. And not even tight stripped screws. We're looking good right here. These screws have not been tampered with. That tells me the case has not been split apart, which is excellent. I'm after this seal right here. There she is, crusty and hard, but I've seen worse. Now for the other side. I need to drain the oil out to get to this seal so that oil doesn't spill all out of the case if there is any in it. Here we go. Moment of truth. And now, oh, look at that. Clean oil. This motorbike is full of surprises. You're telling me we got clean oil and a big knocked up cracked piston and broke carburetor? Our kickstart needs to be replaced or fixed. It's been annoying the whole time trying to kick it over because, see, it just flops. Sometimes you got to take a chisel to spread this apart to get it off easier. So that's what I'm going to do now. See there? Nice and easy. The brake lever doesn't have to come off, but I mean, this stuff is so easy. Just take it off to get it out of your way. What do we have? One clip. Pop her. Ow! 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 My hand. And you just slide her off here. And you got your little spring doodaddy. See there? Out of the way now. The screw heads on this machine are absolutely horrendous on the covers. I'm hoping to get a new set of them. Question: who will be the first keyboard warrior to write in the comments that I need JIC screwdrivers to disassemble this Japanese motorcycle? This is the oil injection pump, and I want to remove it before I get the cover off. So this oil pump's just a little gear pump. There's the gear. Special note to Benny: don't forget that washer right there. Don't forget that, Benny, little guy. Don't forget to put that washer on upon reassembly. Here's our seal. This is the one I'm after right here, but I believe the clutch has to come off. It usually does. This gear usually just hit this spot right here, so I'm not going to waste my time. Just take the clutch out of the way, and then we'll get to this. There's always a little plunger right here that engages and disengages the clutches. And usually, yeah, see, there's a rod through there. It goes through the other side. That's where your cable is. You squeeze it. Blah, 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 blah. Now for what I'm after right here, this seal. Little key. This one's much softer, and they usually are because they're in oil all the time, but still I like to replace them. You need to be real careful removing these seals. This one came out, oh, look at that. It's got this spacer here. Anyways, what you don't want to do is you do not want to take your pick and scratch this aluminum or damage this. You got to be real careful of that. Again, this seal is very pliable. You can tell it's old though. It feels like a gritty-like almost. That's from being old. But it's just best to replace both of these crankshaft seals. So this is as far as I'm going today. We're going to call this the end of part one. What I want to do is order parts for the engine and get them coming. I'm not going to focus on the brakes and forks and stuff like that right now. Let's first get the engine running good. I do have a regret, and that is not removing this engine. I should have just removed it and washed it, cleaned it up all real good and nice and pretty. And then when we get done fixing it all, I can paint it. And I think I am still going to do that. I'll just remove, I don't know, 3 bolts holding it in. 1, 2, maybe 3. Remove it. We'll clean up the engine, paint it black so it looks real nice and pretty. The frame I can clean up while I got the engine out, because I like this little bike. I want to clean it up and make it nice. As far as a full restoration, that's out of the question. It's just not something I'm interested in doing. I'm just going to clean everything up the best I can and only paint the engine. Maybe. That's it for today, and I would consider it a very successful day. Finding that piston all broke up, I mean, that was cool. Missing a ring, top of the piston busted out, and this thing would start first kick. Didn't run good at all, but I was able to rip it around a little bit. Everything you saw today on this video is normal stuff. When you go to buy an old two-stroke motorbike like this, you got to change the crank seals. You're going to have to do some carb work. You got to clean the gas tank and piston and or rings normally. How many of you guys did I get on the screwdrivers? JIC. It's JIS, Japanese Industrial Standards. Oh, but I didn't know that because I'm a big dummy. Guess what? When you wrote it in the comments and deleted it, I already saw it. I know who you are. Alright guys, good times. We'll see you next time when the parts come in.